We were in our favorite place in the world, which is wine country. It was, a day of wine tasting, and Sarah I could just tell something was off. In reality, something was off with me too. I was just ignoring it.
Yeah.
And she said, "Hey, I think we need to talk," and kind of like pulled me out of the party. And so we went and sat down privately, and she said, "Hey, I think we might need to separate." And that was the night we decided we needed to start couples therapy.
So I know therapy is hard work, but it's really beautiful that you can tell people like, it's worth it and we saved our marriage and our family. How does this work for those younger couples who are maybe hitting some of those walls? Brad and Sarah, thank you so much for joining us for the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. I am so delighted that we get to talk together today about couples working together, also working alongside each other in many other ways as a family, as a marriage. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to
Excited
be
to be
here.
here.
Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. I love your vision. I love your business, as we shared before we got on, and you're going to tell everyone more about it. But first, let's have you guys just introduce yourselves and your Enneagram types. Everyone here loves to hear about your personalities. So tell us about you and even a bit about how you met.
You want
You-
me?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
yeah, you go, ladies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Sarah Johnson. I am a 6, and I'm a proud 6.
Yes.
Brad and I met way back in high school. I was a freshman in high school. He was a junior in high school, and we met at a Pizza Hut.
Oh my God.
My sister was dating his good friend, and we met there after one of my basketball games. So, and then we started dating that year, and we'll celebrate 20 years this July being married. So,
Oh,
Sweethearts from the get-go.
that is amazing and so beautiful. And I absolutely love that it was like that long ago. And yet here you are today and know your Enneagram types, have done your work. There's so much that our audience is going to glean from you about how you've done this work. So thank you for being vulnerable a little bit with us here, pulling the curtain back to show like, how does this work for all these years for those younger couples who are like maybe hitting some of those walls. So cute. I love it. How did you learn your types, by the way?
I'll let you
I
go
got that one.
Yeah.
So about, I think it was 2015. I was in a private mastermind with Michael Hyatt. And the last session of that year, so we met once a quarter. We did monthly Zooms. It was about 15 entrepreneurs from all over the country. And the last session, maybe it was 2016 now that I think about it.
I think it
it was 2016. So it was the second year of this program. And the last experience we did together was at Blackberry Farm out in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. If you haven't been there, for anybody listening in, highly suggested. It's beautiful.
Oh,
And so Michael invited our spouses out with us, and he brought in Ian Cron, who I know you're familiar with, Krista.
yeah.
And he had just written The Road Back to You, maybe not too far before that. And so our homework was take this test, figure out your number, and then if nothing else, read the chapter on you. And so I'm a 7. I just remember diving into that book, and it was like reading my diary. It was like, oh my gosh. So that was kind of the first experience. And we spent a couple days. Ian workshopped a full day on each of the numbers, how they interact. And it was cool because it was all couples there. And so we were seeing how the couples interacted.
My God.
And I feel like, well, I guess we'd been married about 10 years at that time. And I learned more about Sarah in 2 days than I think I had in 10 years of marriage. It was wild. And so that was where we were first introduced to the Enneagram and kind of fell in love with it, and became a part of how we really helped us understand how we communicate in sometimes very different ways.
Oh my goodness. I didn't get the fullness of that story before. And what a message for people looking I noticed there's a lot of newer listeners on Spotify this year. And as you probably know from your podcast, we get new people all the time. And just to hear you guys say to these people, just finding the Enneagram, this is a tool after 10 years of doing a lot of deep dive work, which I know a 7 and a 6 do. this tool helped you more than anything else in just 2 days. That's amazing. And Sarah, did you also feel that revelation? Or as a 6, which I know is harder to type sometimes, was it harder to find your type?
Um, I don't think it was hard to find my type.
Okay.
And I think I accepted it okay. I
It
think some people weren't very accepting of their Enneagram at first,
Yeah.
sometimes look at the not so fabulous parts of that number, but
Mm.
no, I I like he said, it was opening up your diary. It was
Yeah.
all about me on that number 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and you knew it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
well, and that's I think looking at that whole group, we had every number represented 1 through 9,
Wow.
and almost the gut reaction from most people when they first got their number, because it talks about how you show up when you're not healthy,
Mm.
is like, that's not
Yeah.
me. You almost
Yeah.
resisted at first, but then once you settle in, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, maybe that is me.
I don't know, I
Mhm.
think sometimes the 7s only saw the good parts. They were
Well,
like, "Yeah."
that's what we do.
So
We're a walking party looking for a location, So, uh-uh.
Yes, this is true. I just had somebody say on my Instagram this week, like, "This feels like me at my best," and, like, I'm not sure I connect with this best part of me, and I was like, "Well, we follow the Gottman 5 to 1 positive to negative, so we know that we will throw you that little punch every now and again, but you're gonna get a lot of fun here." So, I love that you brought that, but I also love that, Sarah, you went into your virtue of courage for the 6. That is the virtue, and you said, "I know I have amazing gifts, but I'm looking at the hard parts. It is me." And you faced it, whereas a lot of us don't have that courage. And so I love that you came right in and now you're a proud 6. So you've obviously transitioned to find like there is a joy in finding the positive parts of our types too, right?
Absolutely, and you need courage every day to continue to face those and to be
Mhm.
self-aware about how you might be coming across or the
Mhm.
impact of your message.
Yes, so true. And that just really helps everybody to know who is facing that right now as they discover their types, that it's all right to dig into both sides, not just one or the other. And we do that as a pendulum sometimes. But I also love that you guys came here today to talk about business. This is a blind spot for this podcast because Wes and I don't work together in the same business. We occasionally do talks together. Like we're doing a study at our church coming up of my book, and it's so exciting, but we don't work together. And I love how you 2 don't always work together either, but there are places that intersect with work because I think that's the ideal for most of us couples where we're like, I want to have pieces of my day job to influence my spouse. And I want to also be able to be influenced in part of their day. And your motto and everything you've done at Triad is so beautiful. And I've seen you grow and learn this. I don't know if it had a failing forward aspect to it, but I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about how you've grown your business, what it's about, and even how you've learned to work together in it.
Yeah.
Want me to go?
Yeah.
So I think what you're referencing is do business, do life, which is kind
Yes.
of our mantra and our true north. And so I
Mm.
grew up in finance, started in at the age of 26. And we basically that business model where we were working with independent financial advisors all over the country. And so
Mhm.
basically I was building a business within a business, a book of advisors that I consulted and worked with across the country.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, and at the time we were married, but no kids, now we have
Mhm.
3. So obviously
Mhm.
you go through these different seasons of life.
Yeah.
And finances, I mean, you work with money every single day.
Mhm.
And sometimes money can consume you, the pursuit of it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think in my early days, it was very much go get the things I never had. I grew up on a farm,
Mhm.
middle of nowhere, Kansas, throwing hay bales in the summer. And it was like, oh, I'm going to go get that car I could never afford, those shoes, those clothes,
Mhm.
that watch. And you see this kind of consume people in finance. And honestly, it probably
Mhm.
consumed me a bit looking back.
Mhm.
And as we grew up as a couple, had
Mhm.
kids,
Yeah.
what I started to see was there was this pursuit of more and more and more business, 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 oftentimes at the detriment and the sacrifice of family in
Mm.
relationship. And oftentimes Sarah was excluded from those.
Mhm.
So we had a lot of different conferences, meetings, trainings. And so I would fly out for 2 or 3 days. And it's weird. It was almost like there could be this form of resentment that would start to come between us because she's at home. She's got the
Yeah.
kids, the little ones, you
Oh,
get
yeah.
home and it's like, hey, missed you, babe. And it's like, here's the kid that's been crying for 3 days.
Mm.
And I think, COVID for us, it was kind of an evolution, but COVID for us, obviously it was not great for a lot of people. It was in a weird way kind of a blessing
Mhm.
because all of that travel. I had 80 some nights that year I was supposed to be on the road and it just
Mm.
stopped.
Wow.
And it kind of gave me the space to reevaluate. And is this my version of success? Is
Yeah.
this what I want in life? And do business, do life came from just the idea of, wait, does it have to be this way? Do you have to sacrifice the life side for the business side, or could you actually integrate the two? And
Mm.
so my co-founder, Sean Sparks, and I, we both grew up in that business together. He's married, he has 4 kids. And so a lot of the do business, do life was, what if we built a business in a way that we didn't sacrifice the life side, but it actually could bless the life side? And so Krista, where you met us, that was all Sarah. I'll give her credit, but
Mhm.
one of Triad's conferences, we're about 4.5 years old as a company now.
Mhm.
It's our launch experience in January, and testament to Sarah and Aubrey, Sean's wife. They're like, hey, so we're part of this. Oftentimes the spouse, the better half, as Sarah refers to her crew.
That was a joke
Wins.
at first, and then they just ran with it.
I love it.
So, what would happen at a lot of conferences, it was all about the business side. And then it'd
Mhm.
be like, hey, and in finance, it's a very guy. I mean, it's probably 90% men. I mean, it's
Mhm.
changing for the better. A lot more females are getting in, but still
Yeah.
very male dominated. And so it would be, hey, wives, girlfriends, go hit the spa for a couple days, and the
Yeah.
guys will be, doing the business conference. And there's a lot of challenges that Sarah has faced as being the spouse of an entrepreneur, the stressors of that. And Sarah and Aubrey said, we're going to do our own session. We're going to call it the Better Have session.
Mm.
And we're going to talk about like the challenges we face. And we're going to bring in amazing speakers that can serve us, and enter Krista,
Oh,
and,
so sweet.
and so that was really cool. And that was awesome to see her and Aubrey really embrace that side and go all in on the do business, do life side. I
Mm.
don't know what I missed or
Yeah,
what you want to
no,
add.
yeah. That's Yeah, we just knew that we could provide more value to this community than
Mm.
just a spa day.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that speaks to both sides, that we're learning slowly but surely culturally that we do need body work. And I know at the end of my sessions, I often, even yesterday, there was a 6, and I just said, take a deep breath and do that body almost spa moment with me. And it really brought out the emotion needed. But what you're saying is we also need the thinking work as partners of somebody who's in a business situation. So if there are people listening saying, I am the breadwinner of this family largely, and my partner needs that spa day. Yes, they absolutely do. But they also need something besides body work. They needed heart work, mental health work. And I love that you've been doing that lately over the last few years to really incorporate that. And Sarah, that is such a beautiful way you added to the story, because I saw a lot of smiles of feeling included from women. And I feel very strong about inclusivity. It's one of my favorite things in the world that I've come to learn after being a gossipy high school girl who did both and learned the hard way and then also excluded others. So you guys really bringing everyone together is so cool. Tell us what made you say to yourselves, we have to learn how to work together as a 6 and 7, when we all know, I think most of our listeners are at least beginning to know those are very different types. So once you discover your type, you're running a business, you're starting to find some leverage with the conferences that you put out and give supplies and support to both partners. What did you discover about your 7 and 6 that really helped you to start thriving together versus just surviving all the time with little kids?
Mhm. Well, I think a lot of it was, I think as a 6, I think in a seven's perspective, I'm just like putting the brakes on. Just
Mm.
kinda like the fun sucker, put the brakes on, slow it down, let's think about this, and
Mhm.
I don't think we need to do all that, and so there was a lot of, realization of, "Okay, yes, Sarah, you're right in your thinking, and that could go wrong if we plan too much in this area or whatever," but, um, I think it's also because he learned about the Enneagram, because he learned about what a 6 how they think and what, I think he is taking more of my feedback in,
Yeah.
and we're putting kind of some boundaries on certain things. A little rambling here, but I think
Mm-mm.
one thing that we've done really good
Good.
as a 6 and a 7, and
Mhm.
me being mainly in the home, obviously, supporting him when he's at the office,
Yeah.
is having, Brooke, our EA, a huge
Mhm.
part of, controlling his calendar, and I'm with her on that. So, I
Mm.
think that has been huge, and the best thing I think Brad did and when we hired her, it was we were hiring her,
Mm.
and
Mm.
she was also my
So
EA.
key.
Obviously, 95% of this work that she does is triad work base, 8 to 5 kinda stuff for Brad, but it gave her, um she was aware that our needs were, like, family,
Mhm.
life, and then business, and we want it all to integrate, and we want it to support each other, and I
Mhm.
think that's been the best in his growth and our calmness in the home, it's helped, so we're
Mhm.
all on the same page. He doesn't do any of his calendar, he goes to Brooke, and
Mm.
then Brooke and I
Mhm.
communicate about family stuff. So I think that has been a huge thing as a 6 and a 7 because I can kind of like I don't have to just bombard him with, "Oh my gosh, we got too much on the calendar," 'cause Brooke and I can do that, and we can and then if
Mhm.
we need to bring Brad in, we bring Brad in, and he's just, working away. So, I think that's
Love
been
that.
a godsend and having an EA for the both of us and not just him, and I feel included with that.
Oh,
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I
absolutely
mean, all of
awesome.
that, yes.
Yeah.
And I think just understanding the 6-7 dynamic, uh,
Mhm.
I feel like it was a huge blessing because we did that before I was an entrepreneur.
Mm.
So I was 13 years-ish as an entrepreneur, kind of building a
Mhm.
business within a business.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, I can't even imagine where we would have been the last
Wow.
4.5 years with the additional
Mhm.
stressors of
Mm. Oh
entrepreneurship
my god. Yeah.
without that understanding.
Wow.
In our early, so we were married for 10 years before we were kind of introduced to the Enneagram. And a
Mhm.
lot of the what I would call marriage conflict that every couple has. I don't care how
Mhm.
happily
Yeah.
married you are.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, that's part of it.
Yep.
And when we would get into conflict as a 7, almost optimistic to a fault sometimes,
Mm.
and 6, other side of that coin, sometimes pessimistic
No,
or realistic. Yeah, realistic
realist.
in Sarah's words. Um, we would almost
Mhm.
have this little tug of war going. And I'm
Mm.
like, why can I not be excited and have fun about something without you just ripping it away from me? Right.
Mm. Yeah.
And so that was me not understanding how she processed information differently.
Mm.
And so when we were introduced to the Enneagram, it was not like Sarah's always trying to rain on my parade or
Mhm.
slow this thing down. It was she's looking for I'm looking for nothing can go wrong. It'll all work out. And she's looking for,
Mhm.
well, actually, there's 3 or 4 things that actually could if we don't like kind of look at it through a different way.
Yeah.
And I remember and I will say 2 big jumps in my life. When I
Mhm.
left corporate, I was in IT first to take that first job in
Mm.
finance. I
Mm.
went from a very comfortable salary in Kansas to nothing, worked
Oh,
off nothing but commissions, which is scary. Sarah
yeah.
was teaching at the time. But I will say the loyalist in her, as we
Mhm.
processed that, talked through it, once she was in, she had my back
Oh my
all the way through.
gosh, that's amazing.
Without that confidence, I might have never done it, right? I
Yeah.
might have never made that
Mhm.
leap. And then once again, 13 years building a career in finance, and then to leave all of that behind, 13 years of hard work to go
Oh my
venture out
god.
into the unknown of entrepreneurship. Once
Wow.
again, full support once we had talked through it. And
Mm.
so I do think, as I look now, we're close to 100 team members at Triad,
Yeah.
and the Enneagram is huge. Like we have everybody on the team take it.
Mhm.
All of the diversity of the numbers and the different viewpoints and perspectives is a superpower
Yeah.
when you understand it because you're not having like this
Mm.
lens where you're only looking through your view. You've actually got this full perspective.
Mm.
And I think that has been so, so helpful for both keeping the marriage right, but
Mhm.
also while the stressors of entrepreneurship are bombarding us some days,
Mm.
which, which is part of it. And so
Mhm.
I think it's been massive.
Mm.
And I feel like Brad now has a great insight and perspective as an entrepreneur and really diving into the Enneagram because now he works with so many offices that are husband wife
Mm.
depending
That's
on.
right. Yeah.
And so I think he's a great coach in that aspect and can offer some great advice and lead in that way with his knowledge of all of it.
Part
Mm.
of coaching is
Mhm.
therapy.
Yeah, it really is.
Which you would know better than anyone, right?
Yes, because I know Ian Cron and I are very similar in the way that we moved from therapy to coaching. We were talking about that the other day on the podcast here, and it's really like there's such similarities that it's almost hard to separate coaching from therapy still. So I love that you both get why the Enneagram is so powerful. I also want to make note that it was so interesting the other day. I was working with a chiropractic center with the Enneagram, and they had me in to train, and it was fascinating that when we went over the types they didn't have there, excuse me, my water is needed. Morning allergies. Okay.
I'm right there with
Sarah can relate.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Okay. So when we were going over their team, they had a few missing types, but I was really working with them like on all of their strengths they had, as well as there was 3 shadows. And I said, we need to make account for these because these are hurting your business. So I love that you just told everyone who's working in their own business, like, you have to account for them. If you're blessed enough to have a team of almost 100 like you guys, you can get all the numbers in. If you can't, you've got to know what those shadows are. And so, what's so interesting is I went through the 3 types. I won't share the other 2, but the type they said after I went through was they really need to hire a 6. So it was fascinating. They
I
were
love
like,
that situation. Well,
Yeah, we were deficient in 6s. And
oh,
what's wild, it's interesting how the different types gravitate towards different roles. So in
mhm,
finance, we
mhm,
have a new business division, which is very much you have to do things in the right order and compliantly.
mhm.
Ones are like
Yes, they,
they're gravitating towards that role, right? But
yes.
our general counsel is a
Mhm,
6,
mm,
and he is an absolute rock star. And we had a situation the last week, and his superpower was he was looking at it from every single
mm.
angle. And I there's not a number that could have done it to the level that he did because that's just the way he's wired.
Mhm.
So it's really cool when you start to see the superpowers of each of the numbers and how it can play out in business.
Yes, I love that about you guys because I know you've made different commitments over the years, and I've heard on your podcast, which is amazing, and in the show notes too, but that, you really try to honor your partner even knowing their flaws, and that is very research-based, by the way, but I also love that we can have particulars as we're growing our business, and 6 is one of those secret sauces, whereas there was a couple of other types, like I said, they were like, "Okay, we can try to make up for those," but they were like, "6, we need 1." Because you can't fake that. You can't fake that brilliance. So we all have a different kind of
It's
brilliance.
like where you need the constraints in your business
Yeah,
oftentimes,
that's
like
it. Mhm.
finance.
Mhm.
6s are good, good like,
Mhm.
what about these 3 things that could go wrong? That's kind of important when you are running a business, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely, and I also think that couples here will be so grateful because you've mentored and coached other couples in this space. What patterns have you particularly noticed? And this is for Brad, but also Sarah. Sometimes you're talking with the wives too, so you as well. What do you feel like couples struggle? Is it the main thing you said, like just the time? Because I think the EA topic was fantastic. And I think the EA topic was fantastic. And a lot of people can reach for that. It's become more accessible. But I also feel like there may be other things that you've learned that would be so helpful for couples where one or both are in this space.
so just one last thing on the EA.
Yeah.
Brooke's amazing. I joke
Mm.
with her all the time. She makes our marriage better, and it's no
Yes.
joke, it's reality.
Yes.
She's air traffic control between do business, do life, and making sure the big rocks are on the
Wow.
life side to where before I had that, the business would push the life off the calendar, and
Mm.
that created conflict between us, right? And so
Mhm.
that's I can't say I feel like an EA or a virtual assistant is a hack in life that a lot of people do not take advantage of. So please do if you're out there struggling
Mm.
with that. But
Yeah.
back to the Enneagram question.
Mhm.
I think just in general, regardless of what the numbers are between spouses,
Yeah.
it's just an awareness thing. It's
Mm.
it's it's so many people have these blind spots, which we both still have, even knowing the Enneagram for close to a decade now. But it's
Mhm.
almost like you've developed a different lens to look through, a different vocabulary to use. We actually just had a therapy session this week, and
Mhm.
that's been
I love
huge
that you
for
do
us too.
that.
Back to
Yeah.
coaching and making
Yes.
sure we stay good. And there were some big stressors on the business side the last couple weeks,
Mhm.
and that was kind of the normal whirlwind of
Yeah.
business was amplified by 10x.
Yeah.
And I just came home the other night and I was exhausted.
Mm.
And in the past, it would be like, "Hey, how was your day, honey?" And I'd be like, I don't really want to talk about it. And Sarah would
Mm.
almost like take offense to that. Like
Mm.
I didn't want to let her in. And it was in reality, my battery was done.
And also, I created a story in
Story.
my head, and for,
Mhm.
it's a 6, I'm like, "Oh, this could be
Oh,
going
yeah.
over this," or, "Gosh,
Mhm.
hope not
Mhm.
that."
Mhm.
Oh, are we still going to be able to be in this house? Are we going to be on the street corner in a box?
Right, right, she's negatively changed you in 5 seconds flat, maybe 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, I said, "Hey, honestly, like I'm kind of exhausted. Like all day has been talking about this situation. If it's cool, I really don't feel like talking about it." And in the past, Sarah would have like pushed,
Yeah.
and she said, "Okay, well that's all right. If you feel like talking about it, I'm here for you." And she gave me
Mm.
space. And I think part of that was Enneagram, knowing each
Mhm.
other, and also
Yeah.
part of it was therapy. And
Mm.
it was just like a beautiful moment for me because she respected that boundary that I needed. And by the way, we talked about it the next day once I'd had a good sleep. And so I think the other side of a 7, now knowing myself better, oftentimes I would say, I don't want to talk about it. And then I would never talk about it. I would just talk
Exactly.
about, oh, hey,
Mhm.
here's the 5 things that are amazing. Just throw that one in the
Exactly.
closet, shut the door, and life is good.
Right.
And the thing I've learned as a 7 is oftentimes I will run. In the
Mhm.
past, before I knew this, I would ignore and run from the negative because I did not enjoy it, and I would just seek out positive. And now, understanding kind of the dynamic between us, it's like, okay, I need to revisit that. It's
Mm.
good for me to revisit it. It's also good for our relationship to revisit it. But sometimes Sarah would want to do it in that moment, and I was not ready for it. And she's been a lot better at giving me the space I need sometimes to be like, okay, now I'm ready to like dive in. So
I think it's been a lot of work on both of our sides. I think
yeah,
you've become more vulnerable and shared a little bit more when you are
Mm.
ready, and that
Mm.
took a lot of work, I think, for you. And
Yeah.
then I can let go of, I don't feel like talking about it right now. I can
Yeah.
be okay with that because
Mm.
because of all the work that he has done, and I know we're fine and we're good, and he
Mhm.
will talk to me because he's worked so hard on practicing that new skill.
Mm.
I
Mm.
so
Yeah.
last thing, and so I think a 7 and a 6, like they can, I don't, this better than me, but I feel like just knowing those 2 numbers, it
Yeah.
could be a very dangerous tug of war if
Mhm.
we're not like self-aware with each
Yeah.
other.
Mhm.
But when you bring the 2 together, it's like this beautiful balance because it's like, okay, we're not overly
Mm.
optimistic, we're not overly
Yeah.
realistic,
Yeah.
pessimistic. And we
Mhm.
kind of meet in the middle and it's like, actually, this is the right path forward.
Mm.
But before that, it created a lot of conflict, just a lot of back and forth.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you for there are some 7s and 6s listening. I know just some of my clients with those types are gonna be listening, but also some of the people none of us know, and so thank you for giving them hope that every pairing has its beautiful archetype to it, its glow, its way of shining and lighting up the world, and you have found that, and I hear you saying a surprising part of our work here with therapy, with Enneagram, with just growth over seasons is wow, we can change. We can have that neurogenesis of new things. And that's possible, even though we're these types that one of them doesn't like calendaring, one of them doesn't like, having to wait and guess. And we have found a way together to have grace, to take our breaths, to say, I can pause and wait because I know their heart. And that was, I mean, for two thinking types, and then both of you have this access, especially Brad, to body. And I almost feel like you have some 7 wing 8, Brad. I don't know if you agree. But I feel like you have the go-getter of the 8 too in you. So although you have access to your 6, and I heard the 5 arrow when you talked about your IT time and your focus time, it's like when you're in that much body space, and also Sarah being such a thinking type, where of course you have access to body space too, but it can take a little longer to get there as a 6. I feel like they're possible to get to body, but again, back to even how you set up the conference, to get to the heart was the goal here too. And I think when couples find their hearts together and their vulnerability and their softness and their real space of like, "Ow, this hurt. I'm afraid," or "I'm scared. I guess even I'm sad." All the different deep feelings, words that are so hard for either type to get to because of all the mental and body processing. I would imagine that that was part of it too. And even I noticed your EA, if I remember correctly, Brooke is also a heart triad person, so she could help you find your heart. Is that right?
She's a 2.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a heart type. Yeah. So she appreciates like you need heart connection. I'm going to make time for you guys together. And in therapy, do you feel like that's been big for you guys to come into that heart and emotional space versus just the body and thinking?
Yeah. I think we should probably get like super real here, right?
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome. Yes.
We'll try not to like break down into tears while we're
Yes, that's okay if you do. I have this all the time with clients. I've found a way through this as a 7. Tears are good.
No, it is wild. That is one thing that therapy has done for me, is actually started to, it's okay to be sad. Like that's
Mhm.
hard for a 7 sometimes to embrace.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but so the truth is, so founded Triad November 1st of 2020, and right on the back end of COVID, which I think honestly, looking back, we were already kind of trending to like a disconnected. I think a lot.
100%
I think a lot of
before
people,
Triad
yeah.
started. Yeah.
And it was just like Sarah's family is like they're the family, like brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles. There's a birthday party for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And just yeah, they're just a very close knit family.
So sweet.
And that was just ripped away for a year. And so I think already there was some like underlying just disconnect. And then that was kind of happening here a bit. And so then started company and kind of rose colored glasses, not knowing what I was getting myself into. My business partner, Sean, it's kind of like the honeymoon phase. Oh, this will be amazing. And then reality sets in, and we were in our favorite place in the world, which is wine country. We were out in Napa, and this was February of 2021, actually right around Valentine's Day. And so the 7 in me is like, oh, this will be amazing. And it was, a day of wine tasting, and we were sitting there that evening, and Sarah was, I could just tell something was off.
Yeah.
And in reality, something was off with me too. I was just ignoring it.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, I think we need to talk, and kind of like pulled me out of the party. And so we went and sat down privately, and she said, hey, I think we might need to separate.
Mm.
And that was, 3.5 months into the new business venture, a
Yeah.
lot of stress, building a team, leaving a paycheck behind. Literally, I didn't take a paycheck for 2 years starting a company. So there was the money stress. There was just a lot of stressors. And thank God that I had a mentor in Michael Hyatt that to me said, therapy's okay. It's okay for guys to go to therapy. And he had kind of shared a vulnerable story of his life when he was kind of in workaholic mode, 5 daughters. Gail, his wife, had sat him down. And so Sarah and I talked that night, and that was the night we decided we needed to start couples therapy. And, oh my gosh, thank God we did. It was like, why didn't we start year 1?
Yeah.
Versus, it was just the stressors had gotten to the point things weren't good. And so now we are 22, 23, 3.5 years, 3 years into couples therapy weekly. 4
Mhm.
years. Yeah, 4 years.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, back to like therapy and therapy coaching, like in business, everybody does coaching. I do business coaching. I
Yeah.
do golf coach. I do, I've got a
Mhm.
trainer at the gym. That's my coach. But then they resist a therapist
Right.
because, oh, that's, something's wrong with me. Or it's like, no, that's just coaching in a different aspect of up here for you or here in the
Mhm.
most important relationships in your life. And so I think
Right.
what happened with us is we finally started doing the work because the pressures had gotten so high that we probably should have been doing year one of marriage. And that's like
Mhm.
advice we give to a lot of couples is don't resist therapy, embrace it. And
Mm.
so anyway, that was like a lot of that journey. I'm kind
Mm.
of rambling here a bit, but
That's so good. No.
the pressures of being an entrepreneur are real. That's why there's a lot of drug abuse, alcoholism,
Mhm.
divorce,
Mhm.
health issues. And I think just it's really hard to be an entrepreneur. It is.
Mhm.
Most people, it's a roller coaster some days, and being able to work on yourself and work with each other through those relationship things with all those other external stressors. I don't know where we'd be without it, but I wouldn't want to know.
Mm.
So I don't know if you have anything else to add, but
Mm.
It's all right. Yeah. All good.
Thank you for
so in
being
short, I'm glad we started therapy, and I'm
yeah.
glad we had the Enneagram to lean
Too.
on.
And I'm glad I see Sarah's courage there, and I say that nothing against Brad, but as a fellow 7, I know what he's talking about when he says, we can just gloss over, like, even anything huge, anything. And so it takes courage to come against that because not only are 7s that way, but they're very convincing. And maybe for a little while, Sarah's a 6, so she's like, "I was not buying them," but, like, most people, it can be bought, and they won't dig deeper. 6s will dig deep around everywhere and, like, call you on it, and they understand because they sit next to the 7 on the Enneagram. They really do get what's happening with the quick thinking, and yet there's this sense in Sarah, something's not right, which you said you had too, Brad, but Sarah, I just wanna say, like, amazing job on using your virtue of courage once again to say, like, "This has to happen or we're not gonna make it."
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. We had to face it straight on. We had to. And I mean, it wasn't good up at that point. We had arguments and there was crying and all of that,
Of
but I think
course, every couple has
it's
some of
just
that. Yep.
whatever I shared that evening, it was real and
Mhm.
raw, and
Mhm.
he saw it, thank God.
Oh,
So,
yes. I love that you picked it up. So many people don't. So I do wanna commend you as well because there's reasons why 7s don't talk about their stuff. It's hard. It feels like death to us. I talked to you about this, I think back on your podcast or at the event, but 7s were kinetic movers. That's how we feel safe. We still need safety like 5s and 6s, but we find it through movement and doing. And so to slow him down to say, "Stop," that's extremely difficult, I'm sure. So good job to you too.
yeah, it was interesting not to keep talking about therapy, but at
Yeah,
the
no,
beginning
that's
of
good.
therapy and of course, we're at the beginning stages of therapy. I'm all like, "Oh, he's all in the wrong," and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
she's all in the wrong," that
right.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
But I could see his 7. He would just talk in circles, and I'm like,
Mm.
I know what the therapist was trying to ask him, and he just kinda went this way, and then and now he literally will come in, spill it out, he might
Mm.
cry, and then he's
Yeah.
laughing in 5 minutes, and that's the
Well,
first 20
yeah.
minutes of session, and I'm like, "Man, we are getting our money's worth now, aren't we?"
A good therapy session is you cry and laugh, and ideally in that order, you end with
Yeah,
the laugh.
Yeah, agreed. Correct, we
But
teach that.
but that's a 7 doing a lot of work right
Yeah,
there,
it
so
is. Yeah,
and
coming
I think
Mhm.
with us, the 7 in me, I knew things were not right, but I didn't
Mm.
want to admit it, and this optimism of like, "Hey, we're always gonna be okay. I'm not going anywhere."
Right.
And Sarah's like, "No, I am gonna go somewhere if we
Mhm.
don't change these behaviors."
Yeah,
And so it was kind of
yeah.
because I felt you had already gone somewhere.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
truth is I was
yeah.
going somewhere.
Your mind was
Right. You just
elsewhere.
Well,
weren't even
I mean,
thinking about it.
the stress of entrepreneurship, um, here's something like I realized looking back and I didn't in the moment. So COVID happens, like all of these relationships, you're not hanging out with friends. Like I
Right.
think as you look at all the studies, divorce rates have spiked since COVID, right?
Mm,
Because a lot of the conflict where people be like, hey, I'm going to do a girls' night out or a
yeah.
guys' night out, where you kind of created some
Mhm.
space.
Yeah.
There was no space. And so a lot of that
Yeah. That's
conflict would just
true.
stay between couples. And I had that and
Oh
the
gosh.
stresses of entrepreneurship piling on me.
Right.
That whole thing was like, I just took like 12 round of boxing at the
Mm,
office all day.
mm,
And just didn't have the energy or the time. So what would I do? I fell deep into the rabbit hole of sports cards. I would just go down in the basement. I'm looking at
mhm.
auctions, and I went
Yeah.
to five, but
Yeah.
like not a healthy
Mm,
five. It was like an avoidance,
yeah.
the situation. And then
Mhm.
Sarah looks up and I've got a spare bedroom full of sports cards. And she's like,
Mhm.
what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
he's not talking to me. And in hindsight, that was me avoiding and distracting myself and not actually leaning in when I needed to in that moment. But
Mm. Mhm.
that didn't get unpacked until later. And
Mm.
so, and
Mhm.
now I have a sports card shop. So I solved it, got all the cards out of the house. Win.
That's
As long
amazing.
as it's out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, and you just, like, bless so many fives and, like, my couples with fives and be like, "Listen to this episode," because sometimes, again, we don't realize we're just like I could see a 7 going, "Well, I don't wanna bother her with it, and I wanna make sure I'm positive so I have enough energy for work, so I'll do this fun thing." And then, like, Ian Cron's newest book, The Fix, it's like we get fixated on that, and that's often where the fives go. So Sarah's like, "Hey, whatever you're doing, it needs to be healthy and it needs to be deeper healing work." She might have not had the awareness of how to articulate that or even what she needed, but you got there together through therapy. And I appreciate you saying you've taken some time vulnerably as well, because a lot of people do want the quick fix. And it's a process. And it's not that everyone spends forever in therapy, but there's a joy to it. I know from a lot of my longer term couples, some of them I've been seeing for a decade because it's almost like touch points sometimes too. Like we see you monthly or something. But I think that what's beautiful is you realize there's deep dives we can do here and we can stay more toward thriving than just surviving. And then I also appreciate how you told everybody today, even within therapy and something else we're going to talk about in a minute, which you do to shore yourselves up weekly, there are still going to be weeks where you just feel like surviving. So thanks for inadvertently saying that too. This is a stressful field. So anyone thinking about going to business together or just thinking about marriage together, life has its stresses even yet, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can I say one thing about therapy? Sarah kind of mentioned it, and
Yeah.
this could be Enneagram too. I mean, it could happen outside of therapy.
Mhm.
When we were in that space of, I just call it a doom loop. That's what we
Mhm.
were in. There was not a me looking myself in the mirror and saying, here's where Brad's not showing up. And honestly, I
Mm.
don't think Sarah was doing that either. It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
here's
You.
all the stuff you're screwing up. Here's all the stuff you're screwing up.
Mhm.
And the first probably 6 months of therapy, I don't know how many timeouts Megan, our therapist, had to do of like, hey,
Mhm.
Brad, we're talking about you, not Sarah. So let's focus on
Mm.
you. And
Wow.
same for Sarah, where
Mm.
she would kind of call time
That's
out. And it was
fascinating.
like, let's assess your behaviors, not the partners. And I will tell you, it was like we had dug ourselves a big hole and we
Mhm.
had to slowly inch our way out of that. And
Mhm.
it
It
took
got
lots
worse
of,
before it
oh
got
yeah,
better,
it took
you know?
lots of work. And I
Mhm.
think that's probably where a lot of people give up on therapy is like they've done a month of sessions and they're like, this isn't getting better. It's actually getting worse
Yeah.
because you're actually examining all the stuff
Mm.
that's off and
Mhm.
pulling it back out of the closet. And so I
Yeah.
would just give advice and give hope to any couple that might be in that season. Like
Mhm.
do the work and commit to it. And I promise there can be like a happy ending, but
Mm.
it took way longer than either of us would have
Mm.
liked.
Mm. Mhm. But you
What do you
saved
think,
yeah.
6 months? I
Oh,
mean,
at least.
at least, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then we could
Mhm.
go back to the Enneagram too and be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like, we have clear minds and we can" so we were just in a spot where we the tools that we once had, they weren't accessible, so we had to get through that season,
Mm.
and then we could access those tools again, and then we created new ones, and
Yeah.
Mm. Wow, that's beautiful. And I think that you capitalized when you said, please don't give up if you find yourselves flailing and a little worse for a little while because you're finally doing the deep dive work. And what I often tell my couples is it is a jungle out there. As much as I can be a 7 and say life is so fun, there's a lot of bad things too in the world, and when you can fight together even against those things as a family, it's worth it to do the hard work because you're saving your unit as a family. Like, you're not just saving the marriage, you're saving generations ahead from having to deal with just different toils we've all known that people can survive and often do, and sometimes divorce is necessary, but that when you can save a family and heal it, it's such a gift to so many because you just saved your entire group here. And I just really want to name that because our communities matter. I often have couples who are going through big things like infidelity, and they're like, now my friends don't want to hang because their wives are all worried that I'm going to do that to their wives. And like, it goes so farther, so much farther than any of us realizes it when we give up. So I know therapy is hard work, but it's really beautiful that you can tell people like it's worth it and we saved our marriage and our family.
And I really hope, our kids have seen that because they
I hope
saw
so.
a lot of
Yeah, of
bickering back and forth,
course. Yeah.
and that was probably very, very hard for them.
Yeah.
But then
Mhm.
they're also seeing a reconnection
Mm.
and
Mm.
forgiveness and,
Mhm.
apologies in front of that, so I
Yes.
I I think they can trust
Mhm.
in us and in the marriage process that,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's
I
safe.
I love that you brought that up, Krista, because,
Yeah.
we're getting to the age where we've had some friends where they went through divorce, and
Yeah.
if this isn't right, it sure
Mhm.
can't trickle down to the kids and be right. It starts here, and,
Mhm.
yeah, our kids, it makes me sad, but it was a
Mhm.
season. They saw
Mhm.
us not show up as our best selves with each other, and,
Yeah.
um, but to Sarah's point, now they've
Mhm.
seen things get better, and now, like, they get really excited when I flirt with their mom in the
Oh,
kitchen. Our kids absolutely love that, so it's one
yes.
of my favorite things to
They
do.
roll their eyes.
Yeah,
My gosh, and she loves receiving it too, I
I
know.
love it.
most of the time,
So cute.
most of the time.
Oh my gosh. Well, lastly, before we end, of course, we're going to talk about where everyone can find you too and your amazing pod and group. But first, I just wanted to say, of course, thank you. But also, you have a beautiful Sunday ritual that you've come to develop that I'd love to hear more about because you add questions in even when you're not at therapy. And I just thought that couples would really be blessed by that. I know I was.
Yeah. Okay, well, first of all, this didn't come year 1 in therapy, right?
Okay.
Like, we
Hmm.
we had to get to a space where we were able to communicate with each other
Yeah.
and stay in the same room.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Okay. Be patient then. The fruit
yeah,
will come.
this was kind of a joint thing, with Megan, our therapist, and the 2 of us. Um, so as a 6, like we say, I like to, like, "Okay, let's figure this out. Let's plan this." And then he's like, "I cannot talk right now. My
Yeah.
headspace is not there." So this was perfect for me as a 6 and knowing like, okay, I can talk to him about it Sunday,
Mhm.
and if it's still an issue, cool. He'll be open to hearing and listening and working through it. And if it's not, awesome. Sarah, you gave yourself space and you let
Mhm.
time maybe take care of it. So
Mhm.
the first one that we ask each other and we take turns, I ask or he asks first. And the first one is, where did I show up for you this week? Or what do you appreciate me? What do you appreciate about
Mm.
me as a partner?
I
So
love
start
that.
with that. And at the beginning stages, sometimes it was rough. I was like, I
Yeah,
can't think of
there'd be
anything this week.
crickets. It's like, "Oh,
Yep.
interesting."
Mhm. Yeah.
I can't think of a darn thing.
Huh, well, next question.
We always found something. We did. We did.
Yeah, you had to work for it.
And
Mhm.
then next was what feelings of hurt or frustration do you have, or what do you need me to hear about them?
Mhm.
So that was the okay. I've been thinking about this thing that bothered me when you did this, and it's been so great where he. I don't know if I'm the one that has more of the issues because he's glossing over everything I do, which is quite nice.
Yeah, that's true. There is a benefit.
I don't make as many mistakes as
You're
he
welcome.
does.
You're welcome.
But, he was just open to hearing, And I also thought to myself, like, is this important enough to share right now too? Is this really bothering me? Or is this a me thing, So
Yeah.
we would
Mhm.
share that. And then and then the next one was how can How can I support you going into the next week?
Mm.
What might you need from me? And sometimes we get
Yep.
into calendar logistics kinds of
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get into a lot of emotional support stuff that I might
Mhm.
need, or
Mm.
maybe a connection. Maybe it's an
Mhm.
emotional or physical connection that we're needing.
Mhm.
Maybe it's Brad's going to be traveling for the
Yeah.
days, and he's like, I'm going to be out. Like, I just really need you to kind of,
Hold down the fort.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's his comment. Hold down the fort, a lot of times. So, and then the last one is, can you tell me something that you're proud of? I think we added this later.
Mm.
Tell me
Mhm.
something that you're proud of that you did this week.
Mm.
Um,
That's a cool
it's
one.
That's a
it's really
cool
interesting.
one.
I really struggle with this one sometimes too. Is that a
Mm.
6? I don't
Yeah, absolutely. Because humans, on top of all of this Enneagram, we're wired for negatively scanning and we have thousands of negative thoughts a day. So add 6 on top of it. Yes, you're like under a pile. So I love this question that you have to answer.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a cool one because you get to brag on yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think
Mhm.
what's cool is like that's the place you should be able to.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Um,
That's true.
one other thing that we edited, used to start with what feelings of frustration are you holding on to? So it was
Mhm.
like it's
Yeah,
a 7,
don't do
just
that. No.
very right
Mm-mm.
out of the gates, like, "Tell me where
Mhm.
you screwed up this week."
Yeah.
And
Oh my
so
gosh.
what
Very
we did was
Sandwiched it.
yeah, what we did was it's the old compliment sandwich.
yeah.
Here's all the awesome stuff you did. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, and here's some stuff you didn't do
Yep.
so well.
Oh
And I
my
will say that little tweak was huge for both of us, I think, because it's like you're starting with, build them up, and
Mhm.
then, hey, here's some opportunities maybe or some blind spots you didn't see this week.
Mhm.
And then the last question that we added recently, because we do a weekly date night, or we try to, it's on the
Oh,
calendar.
I love
Sometimes with
that.
travel and all that, it doesn't always happen. But that was a piece of advice I got a long time ago: is never
Good
stop
one.
dating
I
when
love
you get
that.
married. I mean, that's
Mhm.
what led to
Mhm.
marriage. Don't end it once you get married.
Exactly. Yes.
And so sometimes date nights would get a little stale just because it's like, you've gone to the same restaurant over and
Right.
over, and we want to keep it fresh and fun. And so that was kind of the opportunity, like, hey, is there a new restaurant that opened you want to go check out this week? And so it's kind of a little bit of, hey, what sounds fun for date night this week? So that was
Mm.
that was a
And
cool one.
kind of looking at the stress level of the week. Like,
Mm.
is Brad out 2 nights this week and then it's date night? We want to stay in, make the
Yeah.
kids go upstairs, we get the movie room kind of thing? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
Also about the feelings of frustration too. I think sometimes at the beginning, like when things weren't super great between the 2 of us, anytime he heard like, I wanted to talk about something or whatever, he thought it was a dig at him.
Yeah.
And there were some times when I needed to talk or vent or maybe get a perspective, maybe not, maybe just have him
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
And he wasn't able to listen because I'd been going at him about all the things that were wrong between the 2 of us. So I think
Mm.
this is also a space where I can say, hey, I just want to share something with you that I'm stressed out about. I don't really need you to fix it. I think we've gotten a little better about that communication too. Like the
Mhm.
feelings of hurt might not be just between the 2 of us. It might be, I'm upset about, a relationship over here. And
Mm.
I kind of want you to hear it, or just want you to be aware.
Mhm. That's so good. And is this separate from your date nights? It sounds like it is most of the
Yes.
time.
This
Yeah.
is
We
Sunday
try to do this Sunday morning,
Okay.
before church time, but,
Mhm.
with coffee,
Oh, that's good.
kind of
Yeah.
settle into the morning.
it's our coffee and connect.
Oh my gosh, that's so
On our
cute.
calendar.
I love this. This is really neat. I mean, as a marriage specialist, I'm just honing a bit because I have a monthly meeting framework that Wes and I do, and it's similar. So that's so funny, but it's missing an important piece. And I want to make sure I get this right for the audience that, and for myself, that it sounds like after first the positive, then the thing that needs to be addressed. And then right after that, you said it's like, what do we have coming up in the week? Which I think is neat. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, well, it's like, how can I support you?
Yes, that's what it is.
So,
I
and
love that.
a lot of times we do get into the calendar stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, but
Sometimes
it's
we can keep
it's-
going into the calendar stuff and
right.
Well,
Yep.
track.
but I think like if I look
Mhm.
back where a lot of conflict happened,
Mhm.
you didn't tell me you had a dinner Tuesday night you had to be at. There's kids'
Exactly.
ball games. And so it's
Right.
kind of previewing the week in advance. And obviously
Mhm.
Brooke helps a ton with that, just keeping
Yes.
the priorities. But I mean, with 3 kids, 14, 13, and 9, there's lots of other activities that are moving
Mhm.
around that we have to coordinate with. So
Mm.
it's almost like some of it is like just making sure we're on the same page. And some of it might be like Sarah's a volleyball coach. Hey, I've got a game
Mhm.
Tuesday night, Friday night. Can you handle the kids? Like, I got a lot
Mhm.
going on.
That's so
And so it's
good.
just this like, and sometimes it might be like, this is a crazy week at work. I just need your emotional support at home. We need you to
Yeah.
like really lean in a little bit
Oh,
more
that's
because like I'm getting all of this at work that's kind of getting
yeah.
bombarded on me. So it's just,
God.
it's a cool way to just kind of preview and frame the week. And
Yeah, and we're
Mhm.
open to adapting and changing questions, so I'm sure
Yeah.
your listeners have great ideas too.
Yes, they should tell us if they do, guys. Definitely write in if you do because we're always growing together. I mean, and it's pessimistic to say failing forward, but we're growing forward at it either way. And that's something I'm going to add now to my monthly framework. For my those who are going through my Enneagram intensive, we do it as an hour and a half, and they need that because they're going through the intensive. And so they hit that question. But those of us who are doing my 30-minute monthly meeting, I really am going to add that. So thank you because it makes me feel like I might have missed it as a blind spot as a 7, quite honestly, because it's a very vulnerable heart space question for me to even tell Wes how he can support me this week. Because I'm a 7 and I don't need anything except for a little bit of a fun date night, some physical intimacy, whatever it is normally that couples do. But that is like extra next level vulnerability. So you've given me some homework too. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
there you go,
well,
Krista.
Krista, we're happy to share them if you want to put them in the show notes.
I
Also,
do.
they are in the show notes on the pod you did
Yes.
on my pod. So
Yes.
if they
Thank
want more
you.
of this and more an interview of you, they can hop
Mm.
over to that one too.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been such a gift to me, to all of us here. Tell us how we can find you so others can keep learning and growing with you.
So on the business side, so we mentioned Triad. So most of the social handles are Triad partners on
Mhm.
pretty much all of them: LinkedIn, IG, Facebook. Also, triadpartners.com is the actual company website. And then the podcast, which is, where you were kind enough to come on and share your wisdom. So it's DBDL, as in do business, do life podcast. So DBDL podcast on all the social handles. And then bradleyjohnson.com is where all of those episodes live because somebody still won't sell me bradjohnson.com. So if you're out
Oh.
there and listening and you have it, call me up and I'll make an offer to you.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so unfair. I feel that for you. The limit. I hate that, but
There's
I
too many
love your
Brad Johnsons out there. That's the downside.
That is true. It's a great name, but there's a lot of it. Both of you have these beautiful names, Sarah and Brad
Sarah and
Johnson.
Brad.
That's so great.
Common names in the
Right, but you guys are anything but common, and your podcast is amazing. I loved recently your John Acuff episode. Amy Porterfield's one of my favorites. So you guys are just doing huge things. You have superstars come and speak at your events. You are truly changing the world. And so we're so thankful for you to take care of yourselves and even help shore us up too. Thank you guys so much for being here with us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you
Thank
so much. It
you.
was an honor. Loved it, Krista.